You probably feel uncomfortable when a homeless person approaches you and asks for change. In the back of your mind, you can't help but wonder what's wrong with this person and what made them end up without a place to live. Of course, that can be very unfair. Yes, some homeless people are in this situation due to drugs or alcohol or mental illness, but there are many out there who simply had a long string of bad luck and no one was there to help them out. Ironically, in a major disaster such as an economic collapse, they would probably fare better than the average person. If you find yourself in an urban survival scenario that forces you onto the streets, you might find yourself turning to other homeless people for advice. After all, they've been doing it for years. They must have learned a thing or two about survival. But instead of waiting until you're on the streets to learn from the homeless, why not start learning now? Here are some survival tips I've picked up that we can learn from them. Let's check it out. All right, folks, welcome back. So these tips mainly come from a lot of research I've done, plus the fact that I spent a lot of time growing up in a major city in New York and watching how the homeless people interacted and how they lived. It's pretty amazing to watch people just kind of separate from society, yet still living in society and managing to survive, and some of them even thrive. And like I said in the intro, yeah, some of these people are in the situation for their own reasons, for their own fault maybe. A lot of them just had nowhere to turn to. Basically, had nowhere to go. Once the final check ran out, once the final money ran out, the food, whatever, they were stuck. So, I want to get into some tips that I've picked up. These are about 12 of them that I can come across that I think are the most important. If you find or you hear of others, feel free to leave them in the comments, because these are the kind of videos that can help people survive should they ever become homeless after a major disaster. My first one's going to be dress in layers. Now that is good for pretty much almost anything, any kind of tip, anywhere. What you want to do is keep yourself layered up. Homeless people know a thing or two about staying warm, as many of them have to sleep outside in incredibly cold or snowing conditions. A common strategy they use is just put a whole lot of layers over yourself. Your first layer, all right, the inside layer is the direct contact with your skin. The second layer is your insulation layer, so you probably want to put your warmest thing in the middle there. And your third layer is your shell, designed to protect you from the wind and the rain and snow. I actually have done this walking to work down Fifth Avenue one day. It was snowing and crazy windy and just blowing on you, and that wind between the buildings just really bites into you. So I wore 2 pairs of pants and 2 shirts until I got to work. An example here would be like this. I'd have this shirt underneath here, like this. Then I'd have this warm little kind of inside thing here, like an Izod type t-shirt, and then maybe on top I'd have just a regular t-shirt over the top of it that I could take off once it gets a little warm. So that's just an example, and I don't have examples for everything out here today, just some props really to show you. Alright, number 2, use newspapers. You can see I got some newspaper ads in the back there. Grab them for you to show you. Newspapers are awesome insulation, but they also have a wide variety of important survival uses. For example, you can use them as shelter, as a sheet, as a pillow balled up, even as toilet paper in some situations, and most importantly, a fuel for a fire. If I want to start a fire, I can crumple these things up, make myself a little fire with a ferro rod, with a match, with whatever you got. Matches and lighters are still pretty plentiful in society, so you can find those almost everywhere. Now, unfortunately, there aren't as many newspapers out there in circulation as there used to be. In urban areas, there are a lot of free newspapers. They give out these free weekly kind of newspapers. Those work great. And remember, if you end up homeless, don't overload yourself with them. Just take a few that you're going to need. You'll find they last a whole lot longer and stretch out a whole lot longer if you use them carefully. So, that's the first tip right there. These are just some sales circulars, but it's still newsprint. Still will come in handy. Third tip, use water bottles. I've done this in cold camp type conditions. Basically what you do is you're going to heat up some water, okay, and you're going to pour it into your water bottles. I'm going to grab these back here. I'm a little bit far away from the table today. And of course, this is an ideal condition type thing. Many homeless people would probably kill to have that. But you're going to find these all over the place, I'm sure. Use them. Get some warm water, heat up some water. Now, you don't want to put boiling water in there, of course, but warm water. Heat it up so that it's warm, pour it in there, put them against your body. Put them in your pockets as you're walking. Keep your hands and your core warm with a water bottle that has hot water in it. Now, you're probably not going to have access to tap water or hot water, but even if you're not using these for drinking, even if you get water off the ground after a rainstorm, even if it's dirty water, you can still heat it up and use it to keep that close to your body and keep you warm. Very important tip for keeping warm while moving around. The next one's going to kind of seem a little bit off when I tell you, but it's actually very important. Sleep near other homeless people. Okay? It may seem dangerous to encroach upon the territory of other homeless people, and yeah, there's some risk involved, but it could be even more dangerous to sleep completely alone. Bad guys are likely to rob or attack you when there's no witnesses or anybody to defend you around. So, try and avoid sleeping alone. Now, are you going to find out homeless people, are you going to seek out homeless people after a disaster? Probably not, but you might see a family or a group of people that are sleeping somewhere that's fairly safe. You may want to sleep by over there. Now, you're better off sleeping in an area where there are other people. You know, if you sleep in a park or a particular alley or an abandoned building, it's probably because it's a safe area if you see other people there, okay? They've already scouted it out and they already know it's fairly safe. But whatever you do, don't wait until the last minute to go into this area and sleep. Don't just show up with your sleeping bag saying, "Hey guys, I'm here to sleep tonight," you know? Get to know people. If you find yourself in a survival situation where you're homeless, go in during the daytime. Talk to a few of the homeless people. Share your story. Listen to theirs. Maybe you can make a friend or two, and you're more likely to be left alone. Let's move on to number 5. Be ready to leave. Homeless people are constantly on the go. They rarely stay in one place for very long, and they may be forced to leave in a homeless camp if law enforcement kicks them out or an area where they're staying becomes dangerous. In an urban survival situation, chances are pretty good you're going to be constantly on the move as well. And you may not get to stay at one location for more than a few days. Being forced to move by, say, authorities, or you may be forced to move by an angry mob if a major crisis is unfolding, is actually something that can happen to you. So don't leave all your things spread out unless you're using something. That's why I have the bag over there. Say I'm using that charger in front. I'm just going to take that charger out, charge my devices, charge whatever I need to charge, and then put it right back in the bag when I'm done with it. Now, yes, that does have a solar panel on it, so maybe I'll lanyard it to the bag. But I always want to be ready to move. Unless you're using something, it should be in your bag, and your bag should always be on your back or in a way where you could grab it and go with it in a second's notice. All right, this will ensure that you can stand up and leave right away. And that's also why, and this is important for you new people with the bug-out bags, you need to, number 6, pack wisely. In order to keep everything you have in your pockets or in your bag, you're going to need to pack light. This is a smaller bug-out bag that I put together, and even it's not light enough for, say, a homeless person. I would say you probably want to go lighter on that. This does have some conveniences in it because it's also my travel bug-out bag. But remember to pack light and start light when you're starting a bug-out bag, okay? Don't carry everything around that you're not going to use on a regular basis. And that's why I recommend carrying things like multi-purpose items like bandanas, plastic bags, paper clips. All of these items can be used for so many different things, and you don't have to carry as many items. So remember that tip when you're packing your bug-out bag. Let's move on to number 7. Now you'll notice I did have a big, huge knife out here, and this is to recommend don't fight anyone if you don't have to. Self-defense tools and skills are super important to learn. It's absolutely a very valuable thing, but the most valuable self-defense tip you can really learn is how to avoid conflict to begin with. Always remember that even the smallest injury in some kind of disaster will need to be treated with the strictest of attention in a survival situation. As I've said before, a simple cut or scrape may seem like something minor, but if an infection sets in, it could be super serious long run. Another problem with getting into a fight in a densely urbanized area is it's almost certainly going to attract unwanted attention. Specifically, you could attract more attention that's not on your side, and that's likely to end up with you having a little bit more than a few cuts and bruises. Try to avoid fighting. Conflict resolution is your friend. You want to be as calm and quiet and peaceful as you can be, unless you're forced to. If you're forced to, by all means, unleash hell, but if you're not, try and be peaceful. So, number 8 is going to be carry first aid supplies. This is a very, very bright, obnoxious first aid kit for, say, a homeless person, and would probably attract unwanted attention from other homeless people should you show up with something that nice. But a cut or a scrape could lead to serious infection. Any kind of injury or illness could lead to serious infection, and you could lose limbs or even worse, die or get blood poisoning or whatever. There are tons of other things that can happen. So in case you get hurt, you want to carry some Band-Aids, some antibiotic ointment with you. This stuff doesn't cost much, but it could literally save your life. Another tip is to wear sunscreen. If you know you're going to be out in the sun, that's a good thing to put on yourself. A sunburn could lead to open wounds that could get infected. Remember, you're not going to be in very clean conditions. If you're sleeping on the ground, if you're sleeping after some kind of natural disaster, you might be near to sewer water, whatever. You might have to reach into sewer water. You want to make sure your body is sealed up safe and any open wounds are taken care of so they don't get infected. Now, number 9, blend in with the crowd. Like I said, that's going to stand out like crazy. We get back to the gray man thing here. It's not exactly a well-known fact, but homeless people kind of tend to be very skilled at blending in with their surroundings. There are some that you can't even tell they're homeless unless they're sitting on a corner with a sign saying, "Please help me." There's a reason they're referred to as the invisible population of the United States. In a survival scenario, this is what we refer to as being a gray man or woman. A gray man is someone that can blend into a crowd or surrounding area and not really be noticed. We dress like other people in the crowd, move in the same direction of the crowd and never against it. Avoid making eye contact with people. It's very simple. Being a gray man isn't always easy, all right? But it can go a long way to help you avoid detection and the problems that come along with that, okay? One of the best ways to blend in is to have a clean look. We've seen homeless people that look horrible, all right? Admit it, we've seen them. They look dirty, they've been out for weeks on end, haven't been able to shower. It's going to be an important thing to do to use a public bathroom or maybe somewhere where you can shave or clean yourself up as much as possible. People are likely to treat you better if you look more presentable. And that leads us to point number 10, and that is use baking soda. Now, I don't have it out here. I actually forgot to bring it out, but it's a very simple thing to do. Personal hygiene and sanitation is going to be really important, all right, when it comes to survival. Sanitation standards are not going to be good on the streets, to say the least, but you're going to need to take action to keep yourself clean so you don't get sick. One of the most important personal hygiene items if you're homeless and have limited funds that you can use is baking soda. When mixed with water, it can be used for pretty much anything from soap to deodorant to shampoo to toothpaste and so on. What's more, it's incredibly cheap, so it can be bought for mostly under $1 in most places, even with the economy as it is today. Now, I wasn't going to bring any rotten food out for point number 11, but don't eat just anything. If you're hungry enough, you might be tempted to eat food out of the trash, and you risk getting food poisoning if you do that. If you're forced to eat discarded food or starve, choose foods that don't go bad as easily. That means foods that don't have meat or dairy in them and are mostly made up of sugar and carbs. For example, leftover candy, chips, those are probably going to be safe to eat. But on that note, you don't want to live on just candy and chips. They're empty calories and will leave you even more hungry after a while. And they don't have the nutrients your body needs to keep functioning. Living on junk food is going to cause your health to decline rapidly and make it even harder to survive, okay? If you can gather change, buy foods like beef jerky, trail mix, granola bars, and other foods that have plenty of fat and protein in addition to carbohydrates. Now, number 12 is probably the most important of all of them. And that's control your emotions. Last but not least, okay, this is a hugely overlooked aspect of survival. It's controlling your emotions. Of course, you're going to be desperate. Hope's going to be in short supply. You're going to have some really negative feelings right at that moment when you're homeless. However, homeless people are confronted with the exact same thing every day. They don't know where they're going to eat. They don't know where they're going to sleep or even where they're going to be the next day. And yet they don't let their emotions get the better of them. If they did, they wouldn't stay alive for as long as they have. Instead, what you need to do is control your emotions and use your head. Replace anger and depression and hopelessness and desperation with logic, reasoning, and hope. Positive thinking can't hurt either, all right? No matter how bad the situation seems to you, you'll always do better with positive thinking. Every time a negative thought enters your mind, stop it in its tracks and replace it with a positive thought. I know that's going to be hard to do, and I know for some homeless people that's probably very hard to do. All right, here you are sitting on the street, but it never hurts to have a positive mental attitude. So let's wrap it up pretty simply, okay? As you can see, there are many important tips for urban survival that you can learn from those who are homeless. It doesn't hurt to kind of people watch when you see where are they going, what are they doing, what are they carrying. That was a big thing for me. If you notice, homeless people carry tarps a lot. Very handy for making a shelter or a ground cloth. Watch what they're carrying and watch what they're doing, because in any grid down urbanized disaster that strikes your city, you can bet those tips are going to benefit you a whole lot, and things that you've learned from them will benefit you as well. So that's the video for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please check out our links down below. I'm going to be setting up a link tree with all of our stores' links down there. We have our Amazon affiliate store, our freeze-dried wholesaler, which will save you 15% for clicking on the link. If you're interested in getting stocked up on food, they have a very wide variety, and my link will save you 15% on anything you order. Below that is our My Patriot supply link. That's preparewithiridium.com. Don't forget, $250 off a 3-month kit this month. And there's another good deal on the 4-week kit as well, so check them out. And our Thrive Life freeze-dried food store down there at the bottom if you're interested in checking that out. So folks, remember to know your surroundings, watch what's going on around you, stay safe, and stay prepared.